Remember when your parents were teaching you math? And now imagine what if they never got tired, annoyed at you, never got frustrated when they needed to explain things again and again and again because you just didn't get it? Well, let ChatGPT be your mommy or daddy. Hi everyone, welcome back to Talk Nerdy to Me. In this video, I'm going to show you how ChatGPT can solve math problems step by step, everything from simple equations to logic puzzles, geometry, calculus, probability, even word problems. But more importantly, we're not just going to copy paste the problem, let it solve it, and then copy paste the answer back onto your answer sheet that you give for marks. We're actually going to learn math and get better at math with ChatGPT. Again, we're not just using it to cheat, because if you cheat on your homework, you're just cheating at yourself. Math is important. Learn it, even if you think you're never going to use it again. Learn it. I'm very grateful for learning math. I like math, but we don't all have a private tutor that we can just ask questions over and over again, or sometimes, again, with parents, they're tired. There's only so much they can do. There's only so much they know. ChatGPT is your all-knowing tutor that you can just ask anything you want. But just like a tutor, you wouldn't expect them to just do your homework. Same thing for ChatGPT. Don't just expect it to do your homework. You might not listen to me. You might be like, blah, blah, blah. Skip on to the next part of the video where I learned how to cheat with it. In that case, but ideally, you would actually learn and get better with ChatGPT's help. So let's see how we're going to do that. I will give you tips on how to learn from those answers again, like I said, instead of copying them. And by the end, you'll know exactly how to turn ChatGPT into your personal math coach, let's just say. So let's get started. We'll start with linear equations and systems. So let's start simple. We'll say solve 3x plus 5 equals 20, show each step, and explain like I'm 12. Maybe you are 12. But here's the tip here. Whenever you ask ChatGPT for math, don't just say solve this. Always add show every step and explain, or teach it to me, explain it to me like I'm 12. But saying show every step and explain, that way you're learning the process and not just the answer. And when you do that a couple times, after a while, it will learn that that's just how you like to get the answers. So it will give you the step by step. But at first, if you don't, it might just give you the answer. However, here again, I asked it show each step and explain like I'm 12. ChatGPT says, here's how to solve it step by step, like a balanced scale. You start with this and you undo and blah, blah, blah. You know what? I don't actually like this because maybe my teacher or the way I learn at school, I've been learning like in chemistry, the grass method. So I will say use the grass method to answer it. Here we go. That's easier for me to comprehend, to understand. The grass method, given, that's what we're given, that's what's required. The analysis, it gives you the solution of what to do, how to do it, and the statement. Again, if you still don't understand it, you can go deeper and ask for more explanation based on what you don't understand, but I think that's pretty clear for now. However, that was a very simple question. But maybe we can ask something still in the algebra section, but a little bit harder. So we'll say solve 2 parentheses 3x minus 4 minus 5 equals 13. Don't skip steps. Label each operation. Notice how I tell it exactly how I want the solution presented. The more precise your prompt, the better you learn. Here we go, step by step with each operation labeled. Again, this one is a little bit harder to understand, so it does give you step by step how to do it. Again, if you're not happy with how it gives you the answer, you can ask it to give it to you in a different way. Maybe say, I don't understand this way, use this method, like the grass method that I used earlier. Maybe you have a different method that you use at school, but same thing. So the way it gives you here, that is wonderful, that is perfect. You can even ask it to give me 5 additional practice questions like this and the answer key so I can practice. Let's go with that. Wonderful. So here we asked it for, because let's just say we're still struggling, we kind of got it. But now we asked it for 5 practice questions that you could do. And it could be 5, could be 20, could be 50. Just keep going until you actually get it. And then what you do, you go and try those on your own by yourself without looking at the answer. You don't even have to ask for the answer key yet. You can just ask for the practice questions. And if you think you're going to cheat, and then once you're done, you compare your answer to those that it gives you, because now you have again, your own little answer key. And then it also asks, would you like me to rewrite these 5 practice questions in graph format like you did earlier? You can say yes or no, but in this case, we're going to move on to something else already because we're moving here. We're moving. We're not getting stuck on one question. We're moving. One last one for algebra. Solve the system. See, that's a little bit harder, but I will say show substitution and elimination, compare methods, because maybe I have no idea how to solve this at all. And my question in my book maybe says to use the substitution method and elimination method, but I want to learn both. So then we're solving these systems, and again, it gives us step by step. Method 1, substitution. So isolate each variable, substitute in the second equation, solve, blah, blah, blah. Okay, answer, boom. Now, second method, elimination. Again, it gives you just a different way of doing it, exactly how I asked. And then it also says, because I asked it to compare, substitution is good when one equation is already solved for one variable. Here, isolating y was straightforward. Downside, it can get messy with fractions when plugging back in. Elimination, it tells you when it's great, when like the pros and cons of both methods, and then you can decide what to do for both of those. Would you like me to graph this system so you can see the solution visually? You know what? Yes. I will actually ask it to graph it for us so we know how that looks like, but maybe you don't need to at that point in your learning journey. However, I always like to see what ChatGPT is asking that it wants to do for me to graph, because maybe I can learn more. Okay, so that gives me a visual of how it is. Again, maybe you don't care about this part, but it helps. And also now you know that you can do graphs and like visuals and things like that and diagrams on ChatGPT, so that's good to know. Now let's move on to factoring. So we'll say factor x squared plus x minus 10, show trial pairs and why they work. And here's my advice. If you struggle with factoring, tell ChatGPT to show all the failed attempts too. That way you can see the trial and error process, not just the polished final answer. So we'll see what it gives us here. It's just saying, let's factor step by step and show the trial pairs like we just said, like we just asked. So here, multiply, okay, factor pairs. So this is giving all the trials. Again, if you're having trouble with it, that's when you know those ones did not work, because not 11, blah, blah, blah. So again, here it gives you all the trial and error, so you can actually see and learn from those. And then you get all your answer, blah, blah, blah. And then it also asks, do you want me to show you a shortcut box method for factoring? And you know what? Maybe that would help us. Maybe that's not something we learned yet, but I will say yes. So again, you might notice that every time it's asking me a question, I'm kind of letting it help me and see if that might make me learn a little bit easier or better. So let's solve for that, blah, blah, blah. Again, I don't actually know this one, but then it asks us, because it remembers that we asked it before. So now it asks us, would you like me to give you 5 more practice questions? You know what? Yes, I will like to get 5 more practice questions, because this is something that's not super up to me, so I would like to learn a little bit more. So then we'll let it give us 5 practice questions here before we move on to another example. Okay, perfect. So again, it gives us 5 practice questions here, and then the answer keys below to be able to practice on our own and then come back and find the answer. So again, if we now needed this to be laid out for us step by step, we could ask it to give us the answer step by step, but right now we don't need it. Let's move on to a different thing. So we're going to ask it to solve x squared minus 5x plus 6 equals 0 by factoring, completing the square, and quadratic formula. And we're going to compare pros and cons. Now, you usually won't need to be asking to do all of those methods. However, here's the tip for this part of the video. For something that you're not sure, ask for multiple methods, because this helps you pick the one that best clicks in your brain. So at the end of the day, when you have your homework, when you will need to eventually do it, you will not be needing 3 different methods. However, if you learn the 3 different methods here and the pros and cons that it gives you too, but just trying to see which one clicks in your brain. So maybe when you just do factoring, you're like, oh, I don't know, that's okay. But completing the square, you're like, oh, that makes so much more sense. That's my favorite method, basically. Or quadratic formula, you're like, yeah, I really don't like this one. So you might, if we're talking about class again, you might be forced to use one method or another. But if you're not, then you can choose which one works best for you. Word problems are where students usually get stuck. My favorite way to tackle them is the GRASS method, and we've used the GRASS method a little bit earlier, but that's usually used for word problems. So GRASS stands for, again, given, required, analysis, solution, statement. But let's try an example. I will ask it to use the GRASS method to solve a cafe sells 12 large lattes and 8 small lattes for $84, which is $2 more than small. Find both prices. Okay, great. See how the GRASS method works even better in this case for the word problems? So it's saying, given a cafe sells 12 large lattes, 8 small lattes for a total price of that large latte, because that's what we know. Given is what we know. Then what we need to find is the price of a small latte and the price of a large latte. How are we going to do that? I'm going to plug in some variables here. S is the price of a small, L is the price of a large, and then here's the solution. Here's how we're going to do it. Blah, blah, blah. Wonderful. Now, here's where adding 5 more word problems becomes even better. For word problems, it might be completely different when you're asking to get some more. So yes, I will say give me 5 more word problems, because when I was at school doing math, that's what I was mostly stuck on, the really longer word problem. Well, this one is a simple one, but now it's giving you completely different situations like concert tickets, fruit basket, bike rental, movie snacks. And I love this. I love this because it allows you to be able to get multiple different uses or multiple different examples, so that by the time you get a question like this in school, you know exactly what to do because you've practiced these before. And notice how ChatGPT lays it out when we ask the question here. And we got the answer with the GRASS analysis, or the GRASS method. So it's not just solving it for you. It's not just giving you the final answer. It's teaching you how to organize your thinking. Pro tip in this section of the video, always ask ChatGPT to explain why each step makes sense. That way you're training your brain to think logically, not just mechanically. Again, we're learning for knowledge, not just for exams here. We're learning for knowledge. We're learning to actually be able to do that 50 years from now, not just to be teaching your kids and grad kids how to do it, but to know how to solve math and be better at those. It will end up handy at some point in your life. It might not look like it, but it will. Okay, let's switch gears. Logic puzzles. These are fantastic brain workouts. Let's give it an example. So we asked 3 people, A, B, C, make statements. Exactly one tells the truth. A, B did it. B, C did it. C, I didn't do it. Who did it? Show the logic tree. So this is something that I'll have to think about it. I kind of want to pause the video and try to think about it. Maybe you should too, because that's pretty fun. So let's see. Exactly one is true. So either C did it or I didn't do it. So one of them is false. If B did it, then C didn't do it. So the only one that's true is B, when it says B did it, because then that would make this false and this false. Yeah, I think B is correct. ChatGPT is still thinking about it. Oh my goodness. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but maybe I was just quick at thinking that through. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, and eternity later, it finally gave us the answer. So here's a clean logic tree using the rule exactly one statement is true. Case 1, A is the only truth teller. In this case, there's a contradiction. C both did and didn't, so that's not true. Case 2, B is the only truth teller, and this is consistent, so C did it. And then case C, it's saying it's consistent, A did it. Okay, so then B cannot be the culprit. Only inconsistent case is A is sole truth teller, which would force contradictions. 2 scenarios fit the rule. Therefore, the information does not uniquely determine the culprit. To make it unique, you'd need another constraint. The guilty person lies or the innocent always tells the truth. I don't actually get what it's telling me, so I'm gonna ask it what I think now. Let's see, maybe I'm wrong. Okay, so it's telling me I'm right, but there's another consistent case, so the culprit isn't unique with only exactly one true value. So maybe A did it because, let's go back to the question. So maybe this is wrong. Oh, I see. Okay, that's true. Because if only one is true, maybe this is false. B did it, so B didn't do it. C did it, C didn't do it. But this is correct. C didn't, I didn't do it. So it could be that neither B nor C did it, but A did it. So I only got one answer out of this, but see, I thought ChatGPT was giving me a wrong answer there for a second because sometimes it does happen. So I did kind of prompt it. Are you sure? I thought this is what happened. And honestly, if it was wrong, it would have said, you know what, you're right. I'm sorry this was wrong, which has happened before. But in this case, it's like, no. So you know what, Keshi? Both A and C could have done it, but not B. And then to make it unique, you need another extra rule. The culprit always lies, the innocent always tells the truth. So maybe just the question was a little bit faulty in that one. My apologies. But the tip here for logic puzzles is to tell ChatGPT to draw out possibilities every step, so step by step. And this is how you train your logical reasoning, not just get the answer. So in this case, my tip is to ask it to, like we said, like we did, show the logic tree. Because if it only gave you the answer, it's like fine, yeah. But here you're actually seeing how he walked through. He is ChatGPT. He, I don't know how it walked through it, and then you can ask it for 5 other things like this again to give you some more examples for you to try it, and I think that's really really fun. Now let's move on to geometry. It's geometry time. So let's give it one question. What should we ask it? Let's ask, given this, find the midpoint, distance, and slope. Show formulas. Formulas or formulae? I feel like it's formulae or both. And substitutions. Perfect. That one was really, really quick too. So carefully solve for midpoint, distance, slope, beauty, and it gives you step by step too. And here's the advice here. Whenever you're learning formulae, ask ChatGPT to restate the formula, then substitute numbers. That repetition cements the structure in your memory. So make sure you always ask it to restate the formula and then change the numbers. Let's try another cool one. Two triangles are similar with a scale factor of that. Find the area. Okay, perfect. Now I will ask it, and the tip here would be ask it for a quick sketch description. Give me a quick sketch description. So here's a simple way you could sketch it. Yes. And it can give some sketches and diagrams and things like that, but it's not the best at always being able to give you a diagram depending on what you're asking it. However, it can, for example, this was perfect. This was what we need. So you were able to give it that diagram that was simple enough. And I always encourage you to ask for some sort of sketch, some sort of diagram when you're learning math, because visualization helps you learn faster. Now let's move on to calculus. So we will say, evaluate this, explain the algebra behind canceling. And the advice here is to never just take the answer. So you can notice I said explain the algebra behind. So explain or ask, why does that trick work? Limits, derivatives, integrals. Every rule has a story. So just ask ChatGPT, why does that work? How come does that works? And again, learning deeper, trying to go deeper will really help you understand everything a lot better. So it's giving you the substitution and everything, final answer, and then it gives you the explanation. So when we cancel it, that happens, that happens. So it really gives you the answer as to why this is working. Let's try one more for calculus about differentiation. And in this case, we're going to say state the rule. So the tip here is to say state the rule first, then apply it. Why we do that is so that you can memorize the general rule and not just the case. So if you have a rule to be used, always ask, state the rule first, and then once you remember that or you recall that, then you can go on and actually use that rule and have the final answer. Okay, are you ready to move on to probabilities right now? Probable. So let's ask it. A bag has 5 red, 7 blue, 8 green, draw 2 without replacement, probability both green. And in this case, I will ask for a tree diagram or a formula explanation. And it gives us the answer. But in this case, I will say, give me a tree diagram and a formula explanation. So you don't have to ask for both, but at least one of them does give you an answer. or not an answer, but I mean more explanation so it makes more sense to you. So we want to draw without replacement. So that's the tree diagram step by step. And then that's not really what I want for the tree diagram. So let's see if we can do better, or the formula explanation here. So that's pretty clear. Do you want me to actually draw? So yes, I will say yes. Actually draw the tree diagram here. So again, sometimes it kind of wants to do the lazy work, but it will ask, do you really want me to draw it? Yes, I want you to draw it to give me the actual tree diagram. So let's see what it comes up with. Again, I love visualization when it comes to math. Can you give me a visual for the tree? Let's see, we're kind of pushing it now. I don't know if you can actually do that. See, it's being really lazy. So I'll keep probing a little bit longer to see. Well, you know what? Maybe at this point you already understood it, but I really want the visual. So I'm like, hey, GPT, please just give me the picture. Here we go. Finally. So that took a little bit of probing of really being like, I want the actual tree. Yes, that's what I wanted. And I think I learned so much better when it's like that in front of me. That's how I learned at school. But again, that's wonderful. That's perfect. It gave me the tree diagram. Again, remember that sometimes you need to probe it quite a few times and really be asking again and again what you want. Hey, I want this visually. And it might tell you I can't do that, but it will give you something that it can do instead. Let's ask something else. Given 2, 3, 3, 4, 50, find the mean and median. Explain why the median is more robust. And for probabilities and things like that, you don't always have to just stop at the calculation. You can always ask, what does this mean in plain English? Because in that way, you're able to connect numbers to, what you're actually thinking, how you're thinking about it. Again, gives you the answer. Wonderful, beautiful. And then why the median is more robust. And that actually gives you a little bit more, again, in English term rather than just math, the explanation of it. Now let's do a quick one for discrete math. Actually, I have 2 questions for discrete math. The first one is, how many 5-character passwords from A to Z if repetition is allowed? What if it's not allowed? Those ones were what I was struggling the most with in math. So having ChatGPT here is really going to help, especially being able to ask, hey, give me 5 other practice, things like that. I will say a tip for this section is when learning counting, always ask ChatGPT to explain with a story, like arranging books or choosing ice cream flavors, because stories stick in memory better than formulae. So we'll say explain with a story. You know what? I will actually give the same thing. So it gives us the answer. Explain with a story. Great. Story 1. Imagine you're making a 5-scoop sundae. There are 26 flavors. If repetition is allowed, you can pick the same flavor again. Each scoop has 26 choices, so the total. I love this. I love this so, so much. You know what? I didn't have those stories when I was learning, like, permutations and combinations is what we call that chapter at school, but that would have been a lot more fun, I will say. So again, asking it for a story. If this didn't quite make sense here, because let's go back and see how it gave us the answer. Alphabet has, each of the positions can be filled. Yeah, it's fine. But when you're explaining in terms of ice cream flavor, like sundaes and ice cream flavors, repetition means you can have 2 chocolate flavors. No repetition means you can't have 2 chocolate. That makes a lot more sense here. Or books on a shelf. Imagine you're arranging 5 books out of the 26 different books. If repetition is allowed, want to pick a book, you can't use it again, or is not allowed, sorry. If you pick book A for the first spot, only 25 spots remain for the next. So the choices go as I understood it. I understood it right away with that. Again, 26 flavors that you can do every single time. So you keep 26 times 26 times 26. However, I have 26 books. I arranged one already. There's only 25 left. So next I arranged the second one, only 24. You know what? That is wonderful. I love this so much. I really love, again, remember that rule. If there's one thing you remember, mostly because, again, that was my worst chapter when I was learning math, maybe, or vectors. I don't love vectors, but ask it to explain a story. So there's so many different tips that you can do for a lot of different things here. Let's do explain Euler path versus circuits in plain English. Test if this graph has one. And my advice for those types of questions is to not just copy definitions, but why don't we ask for everyday analogies? So here's the idea in plain English and a quick test you can run on any graph, a walk. This is fine, but I will say, can you explain using everyday analogies? And here's my quick tip for this type of question, to not just copy the definition but understand it. If you have to ask, just like you are asking for a story, in this case I'm asking for just an everyday analogy. Maybe you could ask for a very girly analogy if that's what you want, or a very like analogy related to cars or something like that. Oh, what happened? It stopped generating. Try again. Again, if it does this thing sometimes where it just stops generating, we're gonna say try again, because I personally understand things better when they're in simple everyday terms compared to just those math terms here. Great. So house cleaning analogy. Imagine your house hallways or edges and connecting rooms, vertices. You want to vacuum every hallway exactly once, so no wasted effort. To do that, you can start in one room and finish in a different room. You clean all the hallways, but you end up elsewhere, or the circuit. You start and end in the same room. You finish cleaning right where you began. Or it gave us actually multiple different analogies to understand this, but I think I would understand much better using those than just edges and vertices. So that makes sense to me. Again, think of the graph as rides connected by paths. You start at the roller coaster and end at the Ferris wheel, or you start at the roller coaster and end back at the roller coaster after walking every path. So again, those make a lot more sense to me, but that's another thing. Asking. So we've talked about stories, we've talked about analogies. Ask it for things so that we're not just answering the question. Again, we are learning the math, we're learning deeper, we are really, those are how it will stick. And I will say, at school, they don't even teach you those things. But I am here to teach you, and we're literally just using ChatGPT, which is a free tool. You can use the free version to get all of those. So now, one of ChatGPT's secret powers is so one of ChatGPT's secret powers is self-checking. You know how earlier we were talking about the ABCs, which one lied, which one did it, and I wasn't sure if it was giving me the right answer. So I will say, you know what? Why don't you go and check it? So same thing for any answer. You can say, you check the arithmetic in step 3 carefully. If there's an error, fix it. You have to train yourself to doubt the answers until they're verified. Not everything ChatGPT will give you will be correct. It does still make mistakes, and that's fine, and that's even better, because instead of just blindly, again, shutting off your brain and trusting everything it's giving you, I want you to actually have some sort of doubt. Just like whenever somebody's telling you something, think about it and always have a little bit of doubt as to maybe they are wrong. So maybe ChatGPT is wrong. So do try to do everything on your own as well, but follow what it's doing and if it's making sense, and do use it as a tutor, but always have this healthy level of doubt that you're able to, maybe you're doing it separately and you're checking, and if yours is saying it's a different answer from what you got, maybe ask ChatGPT to double check. And it's really good at that. Again, it doesn't have an ego. It will not go and be like all defensive on you. No, it will say, "Oh, you're right. That was wrong. I fixed it. Here's the right answer. Sorry about that." So again, train yourself to doubt the answers until they're verified. It builds real exam confidence. Now, let's recap how to go from passive learning to active learning with ChatGPT, because instead of endless worksheets, I want you to let ChatGPT be your practice generator. But how do you do that? How do you make sure that you're not going from just, listening and reading what it's telling you and just copy pasting it to your worksheet or to your answer keys, to actually learning and getting better and actively learning with it? That's what we want to do, actively learning with ChatGPT. Again, we're making our brains better, not worse, with AI here. So we've talked about that throughout, but I will recap. Prompt it to generate more things. So you could say, give me 5 problems like this one, but only give hints until I say show solution. Or you could say, generate 10 practice equations from easy to hard with answers only at the bottom. So again, you can ask, and you don't even have to give it an example. We have been giving an example first and then saying, give me five more like this. But you could just say, give me five examples on this topic. And obviously, if you give it a sample, it would be more accurate in the way it gives you the questions. But, you know, you don't have to. Again, you can just start and just give it a little bit of background on what you want to learn and just ask it to give you questions on those. And you can ask for the answers right away. You can ask for hints, or you can ask for no answers until you tell it to give you the answers. Another tip for really understanding instead of just kind of reading again what it's telling you and kind of understanding, to really get it and for it to click, to go, Eureka, I found it. I got the answer. Ask for a real life example, ask for stories, ask for analogies. And again, you don't just have to say real life analogies. You can say, answer to me like, you know, like in a girly analogy, like I mentioned earlier. Or you can say with like a Pokemon analogy or something. The world is your oyster. It's just wonderful because you can go as specific as you want into how you want it to talk to you. If you're such a gamer at heart, ask it to talk to you like you're in a video game or things like that. You can even custom your chat GPT to talk to you in that way. It really connected to life, connected to real world examples, shopping, money. That way it also feels useful. You understand when you're getting your ice cream with different flavors, you're reminding yourself, or maybe not, of permutations and combinations here. So again, now just a little workflow template that I have for you. So here's the workflow I recommend every time you study with ChatGPT. So that's just a summary of everything that we did here. 1, you paste the problem. 2, you ask for steps and reasons for everything. 3, you ask for a different method. 4, and we didn't ask for those, but you can ask for common mistakes that usually happen at this point. 5, you generate 3 practice problems. And 6, get quizzed on it and ask for the answers after. So following this loop will turn ChatGPT from a calculator to a coach. Again, paste the problem, ask for steps and reasons, ask for a different method, ask for common mistakes that it usually does. Again, paste the problem, ask for steps and reasons, request a different method, ask for common mistakes, generate 3 or 5 or 10 practice problems, and get quizzed on it. So that's how ChatGPT can cover everything from algebra to calculus to logic puzzles while actually teaching you to think, because that's important. Remember, the key is not the answer, it's the process. We're not just learning for exams, we're learning for knowledge. So always ask for steps, rules, common mistakes, and practice problems, and real life stories, analogies, examples to really make it stick in your little head. If you liked this video and it helped you, please like the video, give it a thumbs up, but also let me know in the comments which part of this video was the most impactful for you. What's one thing that you're like, I should have thought of it, but why didn't I? But now I'm definitely going to use that. So let me know what that moment was for you in the comments. And thank you very much. I will see you next week. Bye bye.